Buongiorno.
Buonasera.
Buonasera. Well,
nice.
it depends where they are in the world.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Good morning in Italy. Buongiorno in Australia. It sounds perfectly logic. Yes. And we are the Fools in Progress. Buongiorno. And this is Ben, jamming, Battoccio, and this is.
And this is Bianca Bonino.
Yes, sorry, that's all. Yeah.
We are going to start this week's Zooming Zanni by introducing a few of the characters and talking about their modern counterparts. And this series will go on for a few weeks until we get bored. And each week we'll have a different topic, and every second week we'll have a different guest speaker.
Yeah.
So it will be about Commedia dell'arte.
Oh yeah, we forgot about it. Commedia dell'arte, yes.
And comedy in general.
Yes.
But specifically Commedia dell'arte and its past, its present, and future uses. And its uses as a teaching aid and as a performance style, which are two separate things completely. We find that Commedia is taught a lot more than it's performed.
Unfortunately.
But it is a useful teaching aid. But we like to see it performed as a style in its own right, because it is. And there's so much to treasure about Commedia. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to reflect on that and highlight a few things about Commedia that might not have been discussed so much.
Yes. Okay. First of all, we have to introduce ourselves and our company, which is the Fools in Progress. We can say you say it, I don't say it.
We are the best.
You are the best. Yes. We are the more proficus, the more productive, the company Commedia dell'arte that has the most production, creations at its disposal. So we've been performing for the last 11 years now, because we started in 2009 as a Fools in Progress, and then and now it's 2020. Terrible year. And so it's about 11 years as a Fools in Progress. But I started before that. I started in 2006 doing Commedia dell'arte, so it's a little bit longer. But then I have to wait until few years after, because to meet this guy that made my life a hell on earth. But it's a fantastic performer, and so we perform Commedia dell'arte. That's what we do. Okay, we teach Commedia dell'arte, but we mainly want to perform Commedia dell'arte because it's something that very few companies do these days. Okay.
So we perform mostly in schools around Australia. Well, we used to before COVID. But we're now moving online, and we've got our teaching syllabus on our website, and we're starting this web series so that we can discuss Commedia with the world, and hopefully not so much teach, but broaden the horizons of Commedia performers and actors in general that don't maybe know so much about Commedia, teachers that want to learn a little bit more about Commedia, and put another spin on it. So people who know Commedia but don't necessarily see it from every point of view that they could. We've been performing Commedia now, as Bianca said, for a decade together. We do professional shows to the public, but the majority of our shows are in schools, which I find is a great source of feedback, because kids are very honest.
It's very difficult.
They will tell you exactly what they think, which is exactly what you want from a Commedia audience, because that instant feedback helps you build your performance and refine your performance for the next time. Because we improvise all of our content, it's important that we know what works and what doesn't straight away, so that we can either burn it or build on it for the next performance. And that burning and building process is how Commedia developed its improv style, and how it came to be what it was and still is.
Yeah, one of the main point of our performances, as Ben said, is that we improvise. So at the end of every show, usually we have this question from the students, from the audience, how could you learn all those lines, so perfectly? How you could memorize? And when we say no, we don't memorize anything. We improvise. Usually, is like a total disbelief, and that's what really is the challenge. The challenge is for us is as a company is to find people that they have the knowledge of Commedia, and that's I think everybody will know. The knowledge of the physicality of Commedia, the knowledge, the acting skill, and also the ability of going on a stage without knowing what you're going to say and say it as the character would do. So, and nowadays also it's very difficult to put together a company of Commedia dell'arte because people are not skilled in people want a script, they want something that is
well, yeah, you either have a skilled actor that's very good at learning lines and performing with intention and reacting, or you have a great improviser who's great at coming up with dialogue and being very witty and comical, but isn't necessarily so strong with character or with specific like Commedia skills. So finding all of that in one person is quite difficult, and it's why Commedia, I think, became so rarely performed in its proper style. You see Commedia being performed as a circus kind of sideshow act, or you see Commedia being performed as an acrobatic display, but it's flavors of those things set to a very strict statute of what is and what isn't. Commedia dell'arte now is in so many things that we see in modern media. So if we look at the sitcom, Commedia dell'arte was the first ever situation comedy. Before Commedia came along, it was, you would go to the theatre, you would see a show with different characters. Every show would have a different set of characters that would introduce you to, and then they would live their life and then die, and then that would be the end of the play. Or the characters would be gods or mythical characters. Commedia dell'arte was the first time really in history that you would go to the theatre and see the same characters that you saw last time you were at the theatre. And it was a continuation of the life of those characters. And that's why we don't die in Commedia dell'arte. We never kill off the characters, because we have to be able to come back to the theatre next time and see the life continuing. So even if a character does die, like Pantalone has a heart attack, he doesn't have a heart attack, he just has a fit, a seizure, and then he's alive again by the end of the play.
Usually even better than before, like in any good cartoon story.
So in modern media, you can see references to Commedia dell'arte just about anywhere that you can see slapstick or situation comedy. In the TV show Frasier, there's a picture of Pantalone hanging on the fridge. A nod from the writers, no doubt, like, yes, we know that this is where it's come from. And The Simpsons. We often teach Commedia dell'arte in schools by using the Simpsons characters because they are such a direct translation. The Simpsons is a modernized version of Commedia dell'arte, and all the characters are there. So Homer Simpson, Pulcinella, and Bart Simpson, Alekino. They're very direct translations, just in a modern context. And it's important to know that Commedia as a style is different to Commedia as a teaching aid, because like I said, Commedia could be taught with The Simpsons comparatively, blah, 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 but Commedia is still its own living, breathing style that's relevant and popular today. Maybe not as popular as it was back in the day, but it's still popular. And there are hundreds of Commedia dell'arte companies all around the world that still perform Commedia today. We're doing this web series, of this series of streams, as a hope to build the Commedia dell'arte community a little bit more. So if you've got any questions, or you want to get in touch with us about anything that you've seen or you've thought of while we're speaking, feel free to message us on our Fools in Progress Facebook page, or drop us a line on Instagram. We're also on LinkedIn and Pinterest. So
Wow.
we are, thanks to me.
Is the media.
But drop us a line on any of our socials.
Yes,
and tell us what you'd like to know or hear or see or anything else. And we'll cover that in the next week's, in one of the next week's broadcasts. We're excited to kind of introduce a little bit of Commedia. We're not going to teach Commedia in these sessions. We're just going to discuss it and cover any sort of misconceptions or popular rumors or...
Yeah, yes, if I can step in a second, because there are a lot of school of thoughts about Commedia dell'arte. And it's like when you choose a religion, you have to choose a religion. You were born with a religion, and you want to change your religion, and you have to choose one and stick to it. Commedia dell'arte is a little bit like that these days, because there are so many books, there is so many academic work on Commedia dell'arte, and I have to say, most of the time, the people that write about Commedia dell'arte, they should write about history, but you know, they perform very little, and there is a lot of intellectual work, but there is less of practitioners actually stepping into the literary arena and saying what it is actually Commedia dell'arte on stage. So when you grow up as an actor, you decide, or your passion takes you to Commedia, you have to choose a school. We accidentally bumped into Antonio Fava's school. So he's a very talented student of Antonio Fava, and I am also a little bit less talented as a student, I mean, because so we choose the school of Antonio Fava. So when we perform Commedia dell'arte in the style of Antonio Fava. But there are others great teachers and maestri all over the world, and we probably will be able to get in touch with a few of them in the following weeks, and they have, you know, a different teaching, a different idea about what was Commedia and how it was performed Commedia. So no one of us learns the Bible. Okay, we don't have the tables of the Testament, and we don't go around saying you have to do it like this because you know blah blah blah. You choose your school, and you do your best with the school that you choose. So we like to bring together all these different styles and different ideas, because that's what was also in the past. You know, there were hundreds of companies performing Commedia dell'arte all over Europe, and it's not possible that everybody was doing the same steps or performing Pantalone exactly the same way. Okay, it's ridiculous even to think of something like this. So there are many different ways to interpret Commedia dell'arte. From our point of view, they're all welcome. What I personally despise or like less is it's the academia writing on Commedia dell'arte. Is the people that, you know, they never perform Commedia dell'arte, and there is a lot of publication that they say things that, you know, when you are on stage, they don't really make sense. I don't want to be polemical. I didn't want to be polemical, but I'm becoming. But you know, when I read, can you get me one mask? When I read that this is a magic object that magically will give you the connection to the spirit of Pulcinella once you wear this mask, you know, I just like, come on, please, you know. This is a piece of leather. It's a wonderful piece of leather made by a wonderful maestro mascheraio, which Antonio Fava, and it contains a tradition that is over 500 years old, but it's not a magic object. You, as an actor, if you want to perform Commedia, you have to do the job. You have to do the work. You have to research. You have to do the physical effort, you know, make your body respond to the stimulation of the character. So this is just like a hat. It's something that you put when everything is done. You did your job. You research about your character. You did all the job in Commedia dell'arte the physical work, and then like the last thing, you put your hat on, like you finish to dress up, and this is the mask. It's your hat. It's the last tool, the last thing, the last piece of wearing that you wear. I told you that it will come.
Yeah,
exactly
the garbage truck has just arrived outside. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
I told him, in the middle of the Zoom meeting, there will be the garbage truck. Here it is. Yeah. So I finished.
So the thing about Commedia that I really love is the continuity, the fact that you're just tuning into a day of the life of that character. So like The Simpsons, you are watching an episode, you're watching just a brief moment in that character's life, and then you step away and the characters supposedly continue their life while you're not watching. And this is an important thing to think about when you're thinking about the characters. When you're performing the character of Pantalone, he's an old man, but he was not always an old man. He was born as a baby, and there were things that influenced his life to make him into the old man that he is. So people play Pantalone sometimes as a mean old man. And Antonio Fava teaches that there's no antagonist in Commedia dell'arte. The antagonist is the prop or the costume. And there's a physical object that is the enemy, the bad guy, but the characters themselves are not bad people. Even Pantalone, who's greedy and can be mean, is not a bad guy. There is a reason for this. And when you look back or you think back as an actor and you do your work, you can discover why Pantalone might have become such a greedy old man in his old age.
I can say all the old men are greedy, I'm grumpy, I'm becoming old, I'm grumpier every day, so he knows my grudges.
If you think about why someone would become like that in their old age, why someone would become greedy, you can put a whole back history to Pantalone. The audience doesn't necessarily need to know, but it humanizes the character so that you're not playing a stereotypical old man, because he's not a stereotype. He's a very specific character from Venice who's got a history, who's had a life, and these reasons, this baggage that he's claimed during his life has turned him into a greedy old man.
And more details you can imagine about his life, his previous life, his current life, it will help you more to bring to life the character. What also upset me a lot when I read it in some publication, that the character of Commedia dell'arte is a very shallow personality. And I asked myself, when I read that, okay, you read a book and you read something like this and you give some importance to it. But then I thought, how can a character that has a very shallow personality, like all the other characters of Commedia dell'arte, survive over 500 years of history? How can it? How can it be? So it means that, there might be something wrong here. In fact, more I work, Pantalone is my really favorite character. More I work on Pantalone, more details I can imagine of his life, more thoughts and fears and dreams and desires I can add to the character of Pantalone, and better becomes as a character on stage because he has a life, he is real. That's what also it's very important from our school of thoughts. Okay, but then other companies, they think and behave differently. It's not a farce, it's real life. Okay, so when you perform a Commedia dell'arte character, we treat it like a real person, like we were saying. We was talking about Pantalone and also Arlecchino. Arlecchino has a very, very sad story. Okay, you see this character; it is all full of energy and and ideas and smart lines and and full of life. But behind him there is a tragedy. Is a poor immigrants from far away in the mountains in Italy that came down to the big smoke to make money. He doesn't speak the language, you know. He doesn't understand the order of the master. When, you know, the master gives him an order, he say, well, yes, yes. He doesn't know what to do because he doesn't speak Venetian. He speaks Bergamasque.
He can't write.
He cannot write. He cannot read. And he has to survive. And, you know, and he's a very sad character. And if you just perform Arlecchino like, hey, 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 like a little Burattino, it's like a little
caricature.
Yeah, a caricature of of a servant. He will die. He will die. Your character will die in a few minutes, you know, performance. Commedia dell'arte doesn't have to be confused with farce. Farce is something else, okay? Farce is something else. Commedia dell'arte is real drama. All these characters, they have real lives and have real feelings. It just, they express themselves in a very strange way, okay? So.
We performed a beautiful scene that this made me think of in Italy when we were training with Antonio. We did a funeral scene, where a scene where Pantalone was at the grave of his daughter Isabella. Characters don't die, but Pantalone thought he heard from Brighella, who heard from Signora, who heard from Capitano that Isabella had been killed at war, and so he heard that this was her unmarked grave. And there was a beautiful scene that we performed where Pantalone is talking to the grave of his daughter Isabella. And this is a comedy. This is Commedia dell'arte, but the characters are light and shade. So that you are able to have a scene which is very solemn, very sad, very dark even. And there's a comic resolution at the end where you realize that Isabella's not dead, and she runs out from behind a tree and scares Pantalone half to death because he thinks he's seen a ghost.
The ghost, of course. And that's funny, you know.
But that's the end. It wraps it up with a laugh. But in the beginning of the scene, Pantalone is genuinely heartbroken. He's speaking to the grave of his daughter, and it's a very sad scene. So Commedia doesn't have to be comedy all the time.
Yes.
You can build up to a joke, and while you're building that up to that joke, you can go through all the emotions because they're real characters, they're real people, they're not caricatures, they're not on one level the whole time. It's not comedy, because that can be draining for an audience.
That's not life. That's not life. Okay, so Commedia is also a mirror of human life. Another thing, Scooter, I thought of something. Oh yes, another misconception, bang. Another misconception that kept me away from Commedia for many, many years because I was terrified. Because you see, as you say, you know, comedy is not like just, you know, fun all the time. And it's not acrobatic. You can do acrobatic, I can't. Okay, so, and I can, it's not that I cannot do acrobatic now, acrobatic, even with my, you know, speech eloquio. But I've never been able to do a somersault in my life, even when I was young. I cannot do yoga. I cannot do almost anything that is, you know, slightly acrobatic. So I thought, yeah, I can't do Commedia because, you know, I can't even do a somersault. And but that's not the point. Okay, you bring to Commedia what you have. Okay, you bring to Commedia, if you know how to sing, you can wonderfully sing on Commedia. But what they say, Isabella Andreini, that was one of the greatest performer of Commedia dell'arte in the 16th century, she never made a somersault in her life. Okay, but she was one of the greatest of the performance of Commedia. But unfortunately, there is this misconception sometimes. Maybe now it's a little bit over because people started to know Commedia a little bit more than when I was young, many years ago. But at the time I was approaching theater, say many years ago, say decades ago, everybody was thinking, oh yeah, Commedia, you know, you have to be so skilled, in physically skilled. But it's not. You have skills that can be used in Commedia, from making costume, painting backdrops, or making music, or doing, being a wonderful come si dice, a dancer, dancer and acrobat, or anything else. You can bring all your knowledge to Commedia and use it within a stage performance as you like. But Commedia, it's not just fun, and it's not just physicality. Okay, that's what I want to make as a point.
And a lot of the characters have a physicality that varies from company to company, from actor to actor, but the costumes are generally more or less the same.
Yeah.
And so even if the physicality varies slightly between this Pantalone and that Pantalone, you'll recognize Pantalone because the costume, the mask, and with all those combining factors, it will be recognizable from one company, from one actor to another company, another actor. And that's important because back in the day, and also in modern Commedia, but back in the day it was important because the audience might not have spoke the same language or the same dialect as the actor that was playing Pantalone. So they needed to recognize who that character was without being able to understand the language. Now it's important from a historical aspect because there are so many different versions of Commedia dell'arte characters, and there's different versions even of Pantalone. So there's Pantalone, there's Pancrazio, there's different slight variations.
The Magnifico. Everybody asks, what is the Magnifico? We will say, what is the Magnifico maybe another time. But yeah.
So, and there's different Zanni. There are hundreds of second Zanni, all with a name that ends in Ino.
Yeah, we have to explain why is the zooming Zanni. Okay, Zanni, Z-A-Z-A-N-N-I. Zanni is the short for Giovanni. Giovanni is the name John, and in the days was probably the most used name for people. Okay, John was a king, John was a servant, John was everywhere. John. So Giovanni was the natural name for a servant. So everybody agree about that. But because Commedia was created in the city of Venezia that we have behind us, the city of Venice, the dialect for the short of Giovanni, which is Gianni, okay, Gianni, is the sound of the word Gianni is Zanni. Zanni, camia, Zanni, vien qua, portami questo, Zanni, va là, fammi questo, Zanni. So much that the word Zanni became synonymous of the servant in Commedia. But when you are on the stage, remember, when you are on stage, you are not called Zanni. Zanni is the typology, the category of the servant. First Zanni, second Zanni. But when you are on stage, your name is the name of the servant. So it can be Arlecchino, which is this, big, well-renowned character, or it can be Tabacchino, Cappuccino, Bagattino. Usually ends in Ino, because Ino is in Italian, everything that ends in Ino is something nice and carino. It's like cute. Okay, it's to make something cute. Caro, it's dear. Carino, it's little cutie. Okay, so this is, and also for Colombina, Smeraldina, Corallina, the female servants. We will talk about this. Sorry, social distancing.
COVID.
I coughed on my partner. Sorry.
So it's important to really hit that point home that the Zanni.
Yeah, speak like this now. Okay,
yeah, this is masked work.
This is
So the Zanni is a technical term. It's like the innamorati for the lovers.
Lovers.
The lovers would not call each other innamorati. It's a technical term that the actors use to describe the characters, not that the characters use to talk about each other on stage. So as an actor, I would say, and what are the Zanni doing in this scene? But as a character, I would say, what is Alekino? What am I doing in this scene? Like, you know what I mean? So it's very important to hit that home. Also, the Lazzi. I see this issue. I see this come up a lot, especially with teaching. People.
What is a lazzo?
Yeah, no. They go, no? What is a Lazzi?
What is a Lazzi? Lazzi is the plural of lazzo in Italian. So
it's a plural. It's a plural.
Cool down, calmati.
So that's
Italian.
When you're teaching Commedia, for the teachers out there, it's important to teach it as correctly as possible, and that means the language is very important, and just ask the little toy, he'll tell you.
I was looking for the mask, but I can't grab it. My legs are completely stuck.
I wish we could pan the camera down so you could see how Bianca's sitting right now.
Completely folded.
Like a geisha. So the other thing that we wanted to discuss, well, I wanted to discuss was the trend that's popping up at the moment. I run the Fools in Progress social media, as I said before.
Yeah, it's good on this. That's also a skill for Commedia dell'arte of nowadays, you know?
Because if you're not on Instagram, you don't exist apparently as a theatre company these days. But I'm seeing a lot of Commedia dell'arte performed for camera on social media, and I'm loving it. Keep it coming, and yeah, tag us in it, even tag Fools in Progress, because I don't want to miss a thing. But I will say, when we're performing Commedia dell'arte on camera, it's very important that you shoot with a 4K resolution camera, because any lower than a 4K resolution, even 1080p.
Bing, 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 bing.
Someone's beeping out there.
No.
Any lower than a 4K camera, and you cannot see the eyes of the actor behind the mask. I'll show you what I mean.
No.
We're on a low resolution camera right now, and when I put this on, you can't see my eyes. You can if I move close. But from back here, where you would be performing Commedia, so back here, you cannot see my eyeballs.
Boing, boing, boing.
And this is where the magic happens when you're performing Commedia. So if I perform Commedia here, it's not going to sell to the person behind on the other end of the screen, because they cannot see the emotion of my face behind the mask. When you shoot with a high resolution camera, you can see the contrast between the eyes and the face and the mask can be picked up by the camera. But on low resolution cameras, it just gets blurred out. You lose this because it can't take the contrast. And when you're performing Commedia and you can't see the eyes of the actor behind the mask, the audience tunes out. Because it's not a person, it's a caricature, there's no emotion.
Everybody go to sleep. You can't see the eyes.
Yeah, the Oscar goes to the best performance. And when you're wearing a mask and you can't see the face, there is no performance. It's just a mask bobbing around on stage. So please, 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 if you're shooting Commedia on film, shoot with a 4K resolution camera or higher. Otherwise, the content will not be watchable. Your audience will tune out and they will associate Commedia dell'arte
to something very boring.
If you want,
we don't want that.
No, we don't. We love Commedia. We want to bring people into Commedia. So if you want to sell your content or like push your content, have people love it, the biggest tip I can give you is high resolution cameras. The highest you can afford, the highest you can get your hands on, and microphones. If you shoot content and you try to record from a microphone like we have here, you're going to get the reverb sound, you're going to get a lot of echo. That makes it impossible for an audience to listen to and to stay involved with. So if you want to shoot Commedia for film, you need a high resolution camera and microphones. Every actor has to have their own lanyard microphone. And we found the best way to do it is to record the tracks separately on individual lanyards and then put them onto the footage afterwards in post-production. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to shoot Commedia for film, but it's the only way to do it. It's the only way that it actually sells and it hits home. Otherwise, you're just watching a stage performance on a wide angle from an audience perspective, and it doesn't sell the same. That's what I wanted to say about shooting Commedia for film.
We should go back a little bit on what we promised to
words.
Yes, words. You know, you understand. You know, which is the references between the modern time and Commedia. So we mentioned, because just a little bit too quickly, The Simpsons, which are a complete village filled with characters of Commedia dell'arte. We can go even one by one, touching them all, and if you want. But there are a lot of connection between modern sit comedy and especially cartoons and Commedia dell'arte. The cartoons characters and the cartoon style is taken straight from Commedia, and that was my experience. My experience with the first performance that we used to do in schools. You know, I was starting; it wasn't even with us, and I remember that we had poor audiences that they didn't know Commedia, because now the schools year after talk to the school year before and say, "Oh, you're gonna see Commedia tomorrow. It's very funny." And because they saw us the year before, and the year 7 of the year 8 tells the year 7, "Oh, we saw it last year and you're gonna have fun." So we have an audience that is already prepared to have fun. But at the beginning, when we started this adventure, the students didn't know what was going on. So they thought, theater again, it's gonna be boring. So we had these, 150 schools, teenagers, lying in front of us like this. And 3 minutes after into the play, the people was like, "Oh my God, that's funny." Okay. So, and we didn't know, because, I was unaware. I was starting beginning. And I asked myself, why? What's the magic of what we do? I didn't know. And the magic was that they could see in front of them cartoons characters alive. Okay, so because actually the Commedia dell'arte characters are behaving like cartoons characters, in the style. So that was the fun of the thing. That was really this is the key. Okay, to get to the cartoons. They adopted the style and the rhythm of Commedia dell'arte slapstick, which is this magic object, slapstick comedy. So there are a lot of constructions of cartoons or Walt Disney movies that they are based on characters of Commedia dell'arte. I can name, not just Pixel production
and the Looney Tunes, a classic. Anytime there's two servants or two people in a scene, and one of them is smart and one of them is dumb, that's the spirit of Commedia dell'arte. And this is recognizable throughout so many movies, so many cartoons, so many themes. Just off the top of my head, yeah.
Yeah, just hold it. Do you remember Hamlet? Hamlet, at a certain point, there is a very dramatic scene, which I don't remember which one is it, because there are too many dramatic scenes in Hamlet. But the scene right after is the scene with the two undertakers.
Mm-hmm.
No, you do the king, that they found the Yorick skull, and that is the first scene in which William Shakespeare used the duo, the comic duo of the Commedia dell'arte. First Zanni, second Zanni. The older undertaker was the first Zanni. The young undertaker is the second Zanni. And that's a change into the structure of comedy within the William Shakespeare play, taken directly from the Commedia dell'arte duo. The due Zanni, the two Zanni, first Zanni, second Zanni, or the master and the relationship between the master and the servant, which is always comical as well. So I hold it to you.
I was going to say the film Home Alone, where there's the two bad guys, one of them smart, one of them stupid. Classic Zanni. And while we're on Shakespeare,
oh my God! And then you go to 50 Towers, no, 40 Towers.
Fawlty Towers,
Fawlty Towers,
Mr. Bean.
Yes.
It's all like it's once you point it out to students, they go, oh yeah. But it's not initially self-evident. While we're just touching on Shakespeare, we should mention Shakespeare and the Commedia dell'arte influences there. Like in the play Twelfth Night, that's actually the first ever recorded use of the word Zanni in the English language. Is there's a line in Twelfth Night.
Oh, this is my cat.
Black cat.
Obama.
There's a line in Twelfth Night where they say the crows laugh so as the fool Zanni, and that's perfect. That's exactly what they're saying. The crows laughing like fools.
You think that the black cat that comes into a broadcast will bring good luck?
No, bad luck.
Oh, get out. That's a stereotype about black cats. This is very bad.
It's superstition.
Yeah. Oh, superstition. Superstition. There's something.
A great segue.
Yeah, there is something very important when you perform Commedia dell'arte. Superstition, parte Pulcinella is always very superstitious. But there are two things that, let's start with one thing that you never, ever, 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 ever have to stage on Commedia dell'arte, which is magic. Magic was forbidden at the time of Commedia dell'arte, so please don't put magic in your performances, because you used to be put on a stake and burned down as a heretic. That's what was used to happen in the 17th century. So there is no magic in Commedia dell'arte. If there is magic, if there is a gypsy woman that can read your hands and can give you a potion, for sure the potion will fail, okay? Because you don't want to push the people to use magic or push the people to believe this kind of heretic thoughts. So there is no religion in Commedia dell'arte. If there is religion, is the ancient mythological religion of the Greeks that is emphasized, but there is no priest, there is no religion, there is nothing is mentioned about God or the real one, the one that is worship at the time. There was worship at the time, but absolutely is no religion and no magic in Commedia dell'arte. So because it's a tradition, at least the way we perform Commedia dell'arte, we try to stick as much as we can to the tradition. We never stage anything that has to do with. Why are you looking at me? Because I'm
dying.
I'm not dying. Because I'm not used to speak for so long anymore.
Even when there is a religious ceremony in Commedia dell'arte, like a marriage, we talk about marriage in Commedia as a contract, as a union, as a joining. It's not in the modern context. Yeah, it's not in the modern context like you're going to be married under the eyes of God. It's a contract between Isabella's family and Flavio's family, and once the contract is signed, then there will be a marriage. So it's important to hit these points, because this is what keeps the Commedia universal. If you start to talk about religion like the modern active religions, you can start to put people offside. If you start to talk about magic, you can start to put people offside. You can divide the crowd, and that's not what you want.
And now we have this huge problem, which is we need to be politically correct, which cut 50% of the jokes. You know, it's you always have to be, especially when we perform in schools. We need to be very careful not to touch too deep some topics, like, you know, Brigella is the downfall of performances because he sell alcohol. So we have to turn around this, with long discourses about
everything about Brigella. Everything about him is rude and crude and rough, and he can't open his mouth without something offensive falling out.
Yeah.
And so playing Brigella like I do in schools, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's really
but
tough.
that's
a challenge.
It's one of the joys of Commedia, is like learning your audience and then pushing the boundaries and seeing how far you can go.
And then another really difficult thing to explain to teachers, to performers is, when you do your performance, this is something that was relevant 500 years ago. Oh my God, how can you, make it relevant to for instance, he had one of the most wonderful idea to modernize something that is very old. You remember, you give a coin to your servant. So we finish with the last one. Okay? We give a coin to your servant, and they used to, the coin is gold. Okay, let's say the coin is gold. And to try if the gold was real or fake, the gold is a very soft, that's what they say. It's a very soft metal. So if you put it, if you bite it like this, it will bend a little bit. That means that is real gold. So Arlecchino was given by Colombina a golden coin, and he did something magic that is really relevant to what is our nowadays. Although we are performing in traditional costume and in traditional set, okay, we still can bring something that is totally new into Commedia without disturbing the, how can you say, the space?
The space-time continuum.
Yes, exactly,
Commedia,
exactly. That's what I wanted to use my word. Okay, so just explain what you do with your.
So if you log onto our Facebook page, you can actually see the video of this Latte being performed. So when we did it in Canberra, but basically as Arlecchino, I get a coin. And I go, oh, I've got a coin. Okay, well, I know. Brigella told me about this incredible new thing, so I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to invest it. So now it's a Bitcoin, and I have to put it online. So then I find a line on the stage, and I put it down on the line, and I go, now it's going to go viral, and it doesn't do anything, of course, because it's just a coin laying on the stage. And another instance is we have Il Dottore. He comes down and he'll speak to the audience, and he'll say, you've got a very interesting face. Do you mind if I put it in my? I'm going to put it on my Facebook. I'm going to put it in my Facebook. Would you sign my Facebook? And he goes and brings this big, huge book that's just got sketches of faces that he finds interesting.
It's a book of faces.
So
Facebook. So you can without bringing any modern object, like a mobile phone. There is somebody that says that, you can use a mobile phone and Commedia. No, you can't. No, you can't.
No, you can't.
You can't. Okay, don't do it. Don't do it in front of me. Okay, please don't do it in front of me. But you can do this kind of modernization, because the thing that modernized Commedia is our modern language. We don't speak like in the old ages. We don't speak like 500 years ago, of course. So the language that we use today, it's automatically modernizing Commedia. So now I don't know if we still have just a few minutes because we should finish at 8 o'clock. So we look for some We don't want to disappear in the nothingness without any.
But next week we're going to have a very special guest speaker join us.
We're keeping secret.
It's a secret. We'll announce that on Saturday, as we'll every week.
And we thank a lot Alex Theatre.
Thank you, Alex Theatre, for hosting us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Best support ever comes from Alex Theatre. If you're ever in Melbourne, check them out. Beautiful little theatre that used to be a cinema. It's amazing for shooting content. If you're looking for somewhere to film, they're a great soundstage because the theatres are soundproofed, and can't suggest them highly enough. We really appreciate their support.
And I don't know, we're still live, so we can still go until the sign live will die. So I think we see recording live. So we're still live. So
like I said, if you have any questions or you have anything you would like us to touch on in the weeks coming up, feel free to drop us a line on any of our socials. And we really hope that you've enjoyed watching our first ever Zooming Zanni.
Zooming Zanni.
Zooming Zanni.